She's the most dangerous woman in the whole UK. She's a natural nurse in a toxic world. She's coming to help save the day. She's my kind of girl. She's gay, Shemirani. She's not in it for the money. She's gay, Shemirani. She's serious and funny. Hey, oh, let's go. She's been banned from speaking the truth. She's fighting to stop poisoning the youth, confronting the liars in the House of Lords, calling out those killers in the hospital wards. She's gay, Shemirani. She's not in it for the money. She's gay, Shemirani. So serious and funny. Hey, yo, let's go. The most dangerous woman in the whole UK. She's a natural nurse in a toxic world. She's coming to help save the day. She's my kind of girl. She's gay, Shemirani. She's not in it for the money. She's gay, Shemirani. So serious and funny.
Good evening. I'm your host, Kate Shemirani, natural nurse in a toxic world, and I'm coming to you from, oh my word, the beautiful South. And let me tell you, it's boiling. We get much hotter weather down here because it's terribly posh. As you know, that's why we have the highest council tax in the country. And when normally it gets really warm from May, but we haven't had any warm weather. And now it's really, really hot, sticky, hot, sweaty, vile. But anyway, what can I say? What's going on in the UK, clown world? Apparently there's 3 more vaccines coming at you for bird flu. Don't forget it was Donald Rumsfeld that brought you bird flu the last time. And he was the defense secretary, I think, in America, and a major shareholder in Tamiflu. And he got very, very rich. And everybody was sold Tamiflu. The UK stockpiled Tamiflu. And people ended up with narcolepsy, a condition where you just literally drop unconscious asleep. And a lot of these doctors, these so-called freedom, truth doctors, whatever you want to call them, I heard one of them, I think it was Peter McCulloch, saying, don't worry, we've got the Tamiflu ready. No, you don't need Tamiflu because it's all a crock. It's all a lie. You can't catch a virus anyway. These are bioweapons. And certainly that's the last thing you want to be doing. I don't know what's going on anymore. I was the first person in the UK when I was working on local radio to announce that it was all a con and a lie, and that you wouldn't be allowed to travel, that they'd be coming with a vaccine in February 2020 before lockdown. How did I know? Because I'd already read all these books, and you're going to have Dr. Leonard Horowitz on here, who was talking about this decades and decades ago. I'd read all that, so I knew it was coming, and I know the next and how it goes, and all the rest of it's coming. Now I just see them all coming out. I just see the same old troop they're still talking about a virus, and these doctors, immunologists, virologists, who love their idolatry. They love their letters after their name. They love the fact that Johnny and Jane are in private school and their missus goes to bridge club, and they've got a position in society, and they get this a peer-reviewed status on their backs. It's all BS, folks. I don't care about all the letters I had after my name and they've all gone. I really don't care. You come in with nout and you go out with nout. It's the legacy that you leave here that you get judged on. So I see them all hanging on to this about viruses. Still. And this is your next wave of celebs. And I even find Twitter quite boring now. It's like, I liked it better when people were calling me Botox nurse and bimbo and brain dead and the most dangerous woman in Britain and everything else they did to me, using my own son, jailing me, whatever they did. It was actually better. But now, very few people on there slag you off. There might be some green-eyed monster women that come on and say something about my appearance while they've not really got their picture up. And I don't really care. I'm 58 and I'm so grateful to get to this age. So, I just think they're still banging on about it. It's just an echo chamber now. And vax damaged. Oh, and much as I love Danielle, the coerced nurse, she's really sweet. And I can forgive these people. But none of you are forced to take it. You took it for all of your own reasons, to keep your job, your idolatry of football, to watch a bag being kicked around full of air by a group of men that are overpaid with also big egos. Loads of them cheat on their wives. How do I know? Because I knew, I could tell you some stories about my modelling days, but I won't. You took it yourselves. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to pay for it at all. I don't want to pay for your mistakes. And Julian Assange, it's wonderful that he was freed. Can we just remember, everybody? He was kept incarcerated. He was never charged. He can't be held for treason because he's not an American citizen. Has everyone forgotten that? He's not an American citizen. He uncovered war crimes. So how can he go fly somewhere and a deal? Anyway, who am I? I'm just your bimbo. I don't get this. He's gone somewhere and done a deal. But how can he? He's not an American citizen. That means, and my sister's in Australia, what if she tells me something there from there, what's going on, that I can then be tried if I bring it out? It was a platform that he told people to upload it to. So, you know what? It's bonkers. And then we're all having it rammed down our throat 24 hours a day. We've all got to vote for Farage. Vote for Farage. And can you please all forget that about Keir Starmer and his links to Jimmy Savile? No, you got to all forget that. I don't know why anyone believes any of it. It's just Hollywood for ugly people, politics. And all of these things, the Federal Reserve, how the Rothschilds funded Napoleon. Just keep educating yourselves. It's all rubbish. Bankers' wars. They all know exactly who's going to war, when they're going to war, who they're going to use. Look at the whole getting rid of populations. It's always happened from the Aztecs, the Great War. So that got rid of a whole generation of young men. Then they tried all those vaccines on those troops in Kansas. Then when they got sick, they tried the second vaccine. That wasn't just a chance. That was doing their eugenics right there. And it was the same. Wear a mask. You can't go together. All the people died in the sanitariums, but they were all given aspirin, 1,400 milligrams every hour for 12 hours. A drug owned by Bayer, unlicensed. Is it all sounding familiar? It's exactly the same. There's no difference. So I'm finding it a bit boring now. And I don't know whether people talk about shadow banning. I really couldn't give a damn about shadow banning or whatever that is. I don't care. I just don't care. I had the best hour that I've ever had in a long time. Was it yesterday? I forget the days. Do you know what I did? I put a load of compost in all these little trays, made a hole with a wooden spoon and put a couple of seeds for chicory in each one and then put it in my greenhouse. And I've done it with chard. I'm so pleased with myself that I'm actually going to grow food that I can eat because that's what we're supposed to do. That was wonderful for me. So yeah, I've got a bit bored of it now and I'm just like ploughing ahead because I was here first. I was vilified. I was criminalised. I was jailed. I had my home raided. I had my reputation trashed. I lost my license. Do I care? No, not really. Actually, I came across something the other day. Caroline Stevens, you know, that woman with the hairdo like David Crockett. She said apparently the Crowd Justice Fund, I bought a new house with it. What, with 70K? 70K, Caroline. I don't think that'd even buy you a house up north, would it? A terrace house. Certainly wouldn't get you a shed. It wouldn't get you a beach hut down here. Anyway, I just thought, oh, people just talk out the hole in their rear ends. So I kind of now am at the point where I just want to keep going forwards and doing solutions, because it's not really going to stop. When they're coming and saying they've got 3 shots for bird flu, and the COVID and the flu shots are now intermingled, and our neighbours are all still stupid because they're all taking it. And I hear people saying the armed forces are forced. Well, actually they weren't, because I spoke to loads of them. Whether they've got to have them all when they're coming in, that's a different matter, because I know in nursing, they're telling them they've all got to have all these shots. Well, if they choose to have it more, they're stupid. And any doctor that's still advocating it, you're a murderer. And any nurse that's still giving it, you're a murderer as well. And anything else. Actually, all vaccines, that's not healthcare. It's nothing. It's nothing care. It's the opposite. Anyway, when I was 2 years old, not knowing anything, my parents were working class in a mining town in the Midlands. My dad's was a postman. My mum was pregnant at 16. They got married by the time they were 20. They had 3 of us. I was the youngest. They lived in a council house till I was 10. And my mum went to night school. But I remember as a little girl later seeing Vietnam War and seeing this very iconic image, because those were the days when we had a telly, black and white telly. I think there was only 2 stations, BBC and ITV. And I remember this girl with all her skin hanging off. Yet my mum used to let us watch horror films, Frankenstein and Dracula, and she wondered why we had nightmares. But the news was on, and my parents believed everything that came out the Idiot's Lantern and everything that was in the TV. In the mainstream media, in the newspapers, which were few. And as I got older, and certainly once I got married to my ex-husband, and also I think when I worked for British Airways, I've had lots of careers, I'm that old. When I worked for BA and I flew on 747s and 747-400s, I knew that an aircraft couldn't have gone into the Pentagon. That was ridiculous. The hole wasn't big enough to be a fuselage. And I heard from my pilot friends at the time they couldn't possibly have done that manoeuvre into Twin Towers. My ex-husband, of course, was very into the 9/11 Truth Coalition, Dr. Shemirani, and he'd done controlled explosions when he worked for British Gas, so he knew it was all a lie. But that was really when we started, and he started buying masses of books. And I have a vast, mine is medical and health, but his was everything else. But then we started to look at everything and realised that everything was a lie. And I work on Saturdays for Tim Brown on Sons of Liberty, and he said to me, "You've got to interview the guys from USS Liberty. You've got to interview the guys from USS Liberty." And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know what that was. So I went and looked it up and I listened to the show, and it was horrific. It was horrific. And the reason it's horrific is you've got to wonder if America puts Zionism before patriotism. And I believe they do, with everything that's going on. And the whole Zionism, you can say it on here, you're not saying anything about it. You can't say anything about it anywhere. But when I looked at what happened to these men, now last week we covered it because our wonderful guest, Phil Tourney, who's waiting, who we're going to get him to take us through that day. We had Stuart on, his surrogate husband, to talk all about it, and it was incredible. And this was the war that was supposed to be this short war with Egypt, and Israel was meant to be allies. And this spy ship, so they were a listening ship. And they said it was a state-of-the-art ship and it was wonderful and cool because it had all these computers on. And they were just listening to all the messages that were going on. These were young men in their early 20s. And when I started looking into that, I remembered when I worked for BA, staying at the Belgrano down in Buenos Aires, the Belgrano Hotel, opposite the Belgrano station. And I saw all these sailors going into the Belgrano station. They were like kids. Well, they were kids. They were teenagers. And I remember thinking as I saw them going in, oh gosh, the Belgrano ship, when it went down. And horrific what happened. And all those sailors that died that were just teenagers doing their national service, and also the ship that went on fire, the British ship. And then much later, in 2020, when I was on this court with Judge Alfred Weber, War Crimes Tribunal judge, he told me while we were waiting for all these other people to come in 2020, this incident, he was a photographer and a journalist for the UN, and he was down in the Falklands. And I said, oh yeah, because a lot of the British Airways male crew fetched all of the forces from the Falklands, and then when they weren't allowed to go down to Argentina, their passports, they weren't allowed. And I said, oh yeah, and he said, yeah, Margaret Thatcher sent in special forces because they had bioweapons labs down there, and they had to get everything out of the labs and kill everyone. And so of course, I thought, is anything that I've been told real? All these things are planned, just like all the biolabs down the coast of Ukraine that America had. But anyway, back to these young men. They were out on the deck, sunbathing, doing their thing, just listening, a nice hot day, and they saw all these planes circling over. And the next thing, they were attacked, and it went on and on and on, and all their systems, their Mayday calls, or whatever they call it, we're going to get Phil to tell us, all were blocked. So they were just sitting ducks. They didn't have any really firepower to fire back. But you know what was really horrific? There was 34 killed and 171 wounded. Can you imagine that? 107 with life-threatening. But they didn't just shoot them. They sprayed them with napalm, which is incendiary, but it also it causes rapid carbon monoxide deaths because it burns the lungs immediately. It's a horrific way to die, horrific. And those that didn't die would have had horrific, life-changing, life-shortening injuries. And then you look at what's going on today, and you look at everything that's going on around the world, and I personally haven't put out on any social media about Israel, about Gaza, Gaza Strip, forget it, it was ours. It was always theirs because of the all of the oil that's there. But I haven't said anything about it because I don't agree with killing on either side of innocent victims, and it's not the Israeli people. It's not them. We're talking government here, and who's backing that government? Brits, Americans, and the fact that we're we're just watching it. We're watching an entire race of people just being slaughtered. And you think to yourself, well, how is that happening? Well, if they'll do that, they'll kill their own men. You've got to wonder. Anyway, let's bring Phil Tourney on. And Phil, what a pleasure to meet you. I have to say, I knew nothing about this. I was a little girl. Deep respect to you. You were a young man. You were a sailor on a spy ship. Can you hear me all right, Phil?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Phil, can I
Okay,
ask?
good.
We tell us, because you're the president. Tell us how many of you there are. How many were there on that fateful day, and how many are there today surviving? And may we ask how old you are?
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I was when the attack happened, I was 20 at the time, but we have there was 294 souls aboard the ship when we got attacked. How many are left? I would say maybe 50 out of 294. But I might only add. Listen, uh, you're doing a very important show, and I respect you and honor you for that so much, because this story is not just important for America; it's important for the world. And we're whistleblowers, but nobody wants to talk to us except the alternative media, like you and others. But the mainstream media stays away from this totally because they're controlled by, guess who? Israel.
Zionists. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Ab- Absolutely. And you made a good point, too, Kate, about this has nothing to do with the Israeli people. These are governments we're talking about, how crooked they are and what they can do. And we're living proof of it. We saw it, but we really didn't see what we saw, they said. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But I
So,
could tell you a lot more if you ask.
yeah, so look, for 20 years old, they are now, I've got 4 children, 20, 25, 23, 23, and 21. And they want to bring in conscription here. They've just done it in America. So they want to take all our children to be slaughtered again for bankers' wars. This is all this is. This is all it ever is. And look at that. You just look like a kid to me. And this is for everyone out there, everyone's son, everyone's daughter, and a lot of the people that are drafted in America, that go into the military in America are from poor socioeconomic families. And in return for a college education, they sign up for the military, most of them believing that they're never going to be put in harm's way. So they're deceived. They get their education. And just remember, folks, 21 veterans commit suicide every day in America. We have a high incidence here. And this is what they want to do. And this has nothing to do with the people. So, you're absolutely right. They've kept the lid on this. They don't want anyone knowing about it. So I can't imagine, when I saw the footage, just young, beautiful men in the prime of their life on a ship that didn't even have any way of attacking. It only had a small amount of armory to keep pirates off boarding the ships. So they weren't a threat to anybody. They were just a listening ship. They were a listening ship. Everybody, that's all they were doing. And when you see the pictures of the guys sunbathing, beautiful young men blown to pieces in a minute, and you just see the images of just guys being carried off. But I worked in the emergency room, the biggest A&E in Europe, and I saw some. What happens when the body is I've seen gunshots, not really ripped to pieces, but I've seen car accidents. I've seen when people have been attacked with machetes. The body is very delicate, and it rips to pieces very easily. These were your buddies, your friends as well, and you were, your own country did nothing to help you. I'd probably go as far as to say they knew it was. I'm sure they know everything that's going to happen. It's just a game to them. But can you talk us through that day? Because we went into great depth last week in your honor, and of course you couldn't come on because it was your day of. It was really weird that we'd organised it for that day. It was your day of remembrance, wasn't it? And long may that continue with the children and the children's children. This should never be forgotten. Never be forgotten, because that's just it. It wasn't hostile. Where's the honour in that? There is no honour in any of it. The bankers' wars, I can't stand it all. But talk us through from that day, if you can, if it's not too painful?
No, thank you. I'll be glad to. We got on station June the 7th, and the Israeli aircraft were circling us then. We could see the Star of David, and this went on into the next day, the 8th, before the attack, 4 or 5 hours before the attack. We had plenty of Israeli aircraft, Kate, identifying us as American and friendly, USS Liberty. So there was no doubt who it was. And we waved at him. We thought it was the best thing in the world, that we weren't going to have a problem with him because we're right there. We can see the bombs going off and smoke and everything. And I said, boy, I really wouldn't want to be over there. But little beknownst to me, those aircraft were surveilling our ship to sink us and murder all hands aboard. And they almost got by with it. But for 25 minutes, they sent Israeli aircraft blackened out. We couldn't identify them. We had no idea who was attacking us. We thought it was Nasser in Egypt or somewhere else. We had no idea, but it couldn't be our best buddies in the whole wide world, Israel. No way. They'd be there to protect us, we thought. So this went on for 25 minutes. Rockets, cannons, machine guns. They took out every tuning antenna on that ship in the first 2 or 3 seconds. They took out 450 caliber machine guns. They were all gone. And they were shooting and murdering every person they could aboard that ship on deck. That's how ruthless they were. And that continued and continued for 25 minutes.
What about the guys? Did anybody go overboard? Did anybody try to get away from the ship? What happened to them?
Nobody jumped overboard. They stayed at their stations. So as they were taught to do. No, that wasn't going to happen. But
And
then
I understand it. All of the equipment, because it was technically a spy ship, it's like when an embassy gets attacked, just like Benghazi, Hillary Clinton. And there's another one that they did to themselves. that whole Benghazi thing's horrific. And if anybody's listening to this and you don't know about Benghazi, please do go and look it up, because that was terrible. Their entire defense was stood down, and it was American Marines who ran on foot to try and save. Horrific what happened there. But they're always told, aren't they, to destroy all of the recordings, everything, all the data that they've gathered. And even though they were being attacked and napalm, they continued to try and destroy everything, didn't they? So they carried on doing their duty in such horrific circumstances.
they did, Kate, and it's just really hard to tell you. I mean, to be there and for me to tell it, I'll tell it the best I can. But the feeling of what was going on was kind of numb in a way. I mean, you just did what you were trained to do. But to find out the Israelis were doing it, when the torpedo boats came up, Kate, we saw the Israeli flag. So great. They're coming to help us. Those are our allies. In fact, we have Star of Davids, Kate, on the inside the ship. There were Star of Davids everywhere because we thought they were our allies, our friends. But no, they were our assassins. You know, the airplanes went ahead, did their deal, and then they sent the other assassins in to murder us all. 3 torpedo boats. They fired 5 torpedoes at us. 5. 2 went aft. I saw that. And where the other 2 went, I don't know, but I know where the one went when it hit. It blew in the communication area where all the spies were, NSA and CIA spies, got blown to bits in a blink of an eye. Our ship took on almost a 8, 10, 12 degree list and just stopped. It wouldn't roll over, thank God, by the blessing of God. And we saw the torpedo boats coming around and still shooting rocket and cannon fire. We put over our only 3 remaining life rafts because they shot all of them up except 3 of them. We put them over. We were going to put our most seriously wounded in them because they were bad. And you talked about you've been in trauma. You know what I'm saying. This is bad. Worst thing you ever want to see. We want to try to save their lives, but they would have none of that. They shot the life rafts out of the water, Kate. They shot them out of the water and took one aboard their boat as a trophy of the kill. That's how savage they were. And we were set up by our own government, along with Levi Eshkol and the Israeli parliament, or maybe it was just a handful, I don't care. But they colluded together to sink an American ship and blame it on the Arab states. In fact, we were almost in a World War III. If our ship goes down, this world will be completely different right now. And people need to realize that.
I absolutely respect what you're saying, and I'm not even one to disagree. But I'm of the total belief now that it's like a chessboard. If they're going to have a war, they have a war, and they make so much money from that war, and it's all planned. It's hard, I always often say, if I knew then what I know now, I would have never have had children. How could I bring children into this world? But I think that's playing to the devil, and what we have to do is have children and pray that the light outshines the darkness. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think of as you're talking, I think of who was in London during the 7/7 bombings, and you had Mossad, you had all of those head people in London as those young men were set up for the London bombings, and Dr. Nick Collestrom's book shows it beautifully. That people were slaughtered. They don't care. They don't care about us at all. But I think I think at that time when you went into the Navy, it was a draft, right? There was a draft. Everybody was drafted at that time. Did you choose to go in? Did you want to go in? Or did you just accept your draft anyway? But had there not been a draft, would you not have gone in? So you had all of I'm thinking of what they're trying to do now. They're trying to draft. They've already signed all that in America. They're trying to do it here. They don't draft our young people unless they're going to use them, unless they're going to slaughter them. And so I when I read all about what happened, and then I listened to your interview with Tim, I just see you as a young man again. I don't see you as an older. It's very easy, I always say this when people get killed, be on either side. When they talk about, when I hear military, a lot of my family have been in the military and are in the military. Geez, and they talk about killing people. I always think that dead person there was a child once. It's somebody's child, somebody's baby. It's somebody's son, somebody's daughter. It doesn't just affect one person. It just has a ripple effect forever, because for what happens next. So when I see it, I just don't see you as a mature gentleman sat in front of me. You were a young man that was conscripted in a war when they'd already lost, 10,000 American men in 1 year in Vietnam. Was it 10,000 in one? I think it was. In the first year, I can't get my head around that. Young men. I mean, I look at the idiots now, and I look at the 20-year-olds your age that would be conscripted and would be cannon fodder at the bottom, and I can't imagine it. I always go through the graveyards and I look at the military stones, and it will say 19-year-old private, 18-year-old, 20-year-old sergeant, 20-year-old as a sergeant. And you think, for me, they're just boys. But of course they're not. They're showing the full horror right then, right there. So you're on this ship with all your friends, which they would have been. They become your brothers in arms, right? They do become family. You're with them all the time. And you see them, and you see the torpedo boats coming up, and you think they're there to help you. When all of that starts to settle down and the ship didn't sink and it stopped, then it's that, that whole thing when people are in a car accident, the adrenaline's rolling. They sometimes don't even notice they've got horrific wounds till the adrenaline starts to come down. And then it's that point, and then it's what comes afterwards, that post-traumatic stress, which is horrific. What happened next as they stopped shooting and the dust begins to settle and you're still alive? You weren't injured?
Yes, I was wounded. I was a walking wounded, thank God. But the attack didn't stop with the Israeli torpedo boats, and they sent troop-carrying helicopters over there to finish us off. And they just hovered over and left. And what happened was, in my mind, I think most of the survivors is they confessed too early. If they would have confessed that it was a mistaken identity, we did it 30 or 40 minutes later, we'd have been on the bottom, and World War III was begun. There were SAC aircraft in the air, Kate, before we ever got attacked to attack Egypt. And they had to be recalled because our ship didn't sink. That's how serious this is. It's serious not just for America, it's serious for Great Britain, one of the great powers in this country, the whole world. It's great for everybody, but I mean, they got to know the truth. What they'll do to you. Yeah, we were cannon fodder for political gain. Cannon fodder, nothing but cannon fodder. They didn't care about us, but the political gain was worth the risk. But really, there was no risk. We were sitting ducks like fish in a barrel, and they still could sink us. The most advanced Air Force and Navy at the time, screw them. We didn't fire a shot and we kicked their ass.
By God's will, you were meant to be, because you were meant to meet me and come and sit on this show and tell the younger generation in the UK, who most of us didn't even know anything about this. And I'm ashamed to say, I mean, we can't know everything, but once I found out about it, and Philip's coming on TNT as well. Once I found out about it, I was like, this can't be forgotten, and there's never been a more pertinent time than it needs to be right at the forefront and remembered, because they're going to do it again. They're going to do it all again and again and again, and they do. They'll keep doing it again and again, and it's horrific. But you weren't meant to die. You weren't meant to die. I mean, how when I listen to you, and also the amount I've read up on it, I'm amazed that any of you actually survived. It's incredible. And I'm not downplaying 34 deaths. 34 mothers lost their sons. 34 families lost young men. Young men. You know, with robbed of probably 3/4 to 4/5 of their lives gone. And horribly. Napalm. That's the other thing. It was illegal, and I know it. I always find that, it's okay to kill, it's okay to shoot somebody, but it's legal to shoot somebody, shoot your enemy, but it's illegal to use napalm. Crazy, but they have these ridiculous rules in war as well. But it was illegal, right? And they used to fire napalm on you. Napalm.
Everything was. I'm sorry. Everything was illegal, Kate. What they did to us, but it didn't matter to them at all. They just wanted to fulfill their mission. But the mission is not done for the Zionist state. The land they thought they were going to get to 67 with the threat of nuclear war and possibly a tactical nuke somewhere to get their attention. They'd got all the land they wanted in 67. Us not thinking prevented that. And this Gaza deal right now, I've got a lot of different things I've heard and read about it, but that is pure genocide. And the United States of America and the UK are supplying with weapons to genocide little babies, young women, mothers and fathers, either starving them or burning them. They're going to try to annihilate them all.
Well, they are. They are annihilating them all, and you're right. And you say, Britain. We have to pay a thing in the UK called council tax. Council tax. We all have to pay it. There's two things that will get you evicted from your home, and it's not paying your rent and your mortgage, and not paying your council tax. And council tax, people think it just goes to pay, the police and your street lighting. It actually goes to fund wars. That's what it goes to fund, wars. And there's a lot of people in the UK have woken up to it and haven't paid it. A young man that I know hasn't paid it, was young, is my age. He hasn't paid it, I think, for about 4 or 5 years because it's used to fund wars. And you know how much money they sent to Ukraine, the UK. We don't vote for it. Again, we're not the government, and the same as you're not the American government. So I said at the beginning of the show, Phil, do you think that America has put the Zionist cause above US patriotism? And just to say, who heard that woman in 60 denier pantyhose tights and sparkly shorts shout what was it she said, patriotism, down the microphone? Taylor Swift, who needs to be swiftly whisked off that stage and off everybody's. But I can't believe people take their children to see that garbage or pay $200 odd when people are using food banks and they're all going to the next thing and going to watch some woman that's using a voice machine singing. I don't know. I don't even own a telly. I don't own a telly, Phil. But she said F patriotism. She shouldn't be allowed back in the USA, really, should she? With a mouth like that. But anyway, so how do all your colleagues that are still alive think? Do they think the same, that America's putting Zionism above patriotism? Do they realize as well?
Boy, oh boy, do we ever. We were gagged by an Admiral Isaac Kidd, that came aboard our ship when we were headed to Malta. And by the way, they didn't send help to us for 20 or 17 hours, and they were only 40 minutes away.
So 17 hours. So you would have had men on that ship injured that would have perished, or their condition would have become exponentially worse, shortening their lives further, because in trauma, you have 1 hour, the golden hour, to stabilize and get to definitive care. So They really weren't out to save you, were they? Shocking.
No, nobody was out to save us, Kate.
40 minutes, 40 minutes away. It's disgusting.
It is, and in fact, I helped in an operation with Doc Keefer. We had one doctor aboard the ship. His name was Gary Blanchard, and he was laying on the table on a mattress, and he was hit, and he was hit bad. I could tell that. Everybody could. And he said, "Would you please take my socks off and rub my feet for me? They're very, very hot." And I rubbed his feet, and then Doc got there, and yeah, he would ask me. He said, "Do you think I'm going to make it?" And I said, "No, I don't think you are, man." And that was hard to say. And they cut him open. Doc cut him open, and he was already dead. And they put three or four stitches in him, and we put him over the side and started working on the next one. And so we did that all night. But
What you mean you gave him a burial at sea with the sharks?
no, we didn't. We just put him in a body bag,
I see.
and
That's
and
horrible.
took him. Yeah, he was hauled off. But now you were talking about Zionism controlling our country. Was that correct?
Well, all of it. Just go back to what you've just said for a minute. You're standing in front of, you're rubbing someone's feet. Their feet are hot. Your colleague, your brother, and he says, "Am I going to make it?" And you say no. And it takes me back to a man who was on fire when the paramedics arrived because he's filled his mower with petrol and it sparked and he was ended up engulfed in flames. And he said the same, "Am I going to survive?" Of course, everyone was like, yeah, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. Of course, he was so covered in burns and he was old, he didn't survive. He died within a week or so. But to actually say, to be honest enough to give him that moment to say, no, you're not going to make it, so that he can get right with the Lord, whatever he wants to do. That takes a lot of guts, actually, to say to somebody. I've been with people as they're dying, traumatically or elderly, or I've been with them and they've not known they were going to die and they die right there in front of you traumatically. And you don't forget, do you? It doesn't matter how many people you see, you remember every single face. I remember every single traumatic car accident I saw, every single one in 5 years. I remember them all that were on my shift. So I think for you to see and have to say that to him, I think that in itself is it's pretty horrific. It's pretty horrific, and I can't imagine. I'm sure you've seen that many times in your dreams. So you put him over the side, he goes in a body bag, and you start on the next one. And how many hours did you say before help came?
17 hours. This went on all night. So the attack quit after 2 hours. I mean, of nothing but onslaught. And then from then on, 17 hours, we got no help from nobody. They didn't even send a Piper Cub over to see how we were doing.
Did,
You know,
did everybody realize at that moment that they were being slaughtered?
The USS America and those guys.
Yeah. Did
Yeah,
all your when no help came either, did they realize that this was a setup, that you were just being killed?
well, I don't know how much they believed or what they were told, but yeah, everybody knows it now. We were set up. That's why they recalled the aircraft, not once but twice, off two of the mightiest aircraft carriers in the world at the time, USS Saratoga and USS Saratoga. Captain Tully was the skipper there, a good friend of mine. He sent off two volleys of aircraft to come help us, and they recalled them both. Captain Ingan on the USS America sent off a volley of aircraft. One of the pilots said that, "Hey, we're up here let us go take a look. And no, said, get back to base. And we were still being attacked. McNamara and the LBJ called them back. That's how crooked governments are. They could care less about us. They could just care less. And hey, listen, the world needs to know this story because there's many more like them. But we survived the truth. We survived to tell the truth by the
Absolutely.
grace of God. And I'm on this show because of the grace of God. And I listen. I really appreciate you doing this, man. You're something special.
That's really kind, but no, you guys are something special because, like I say, with what's going on now, so the help arrived. So they finally came all those hours later. I can't imagine how many men bled out, or lost limbs, or I can't imagine because I'm 40 years a nurse, even though they took my license. I don't give a rat's ass about that. But I've seen it. That because they're killing people in the in the health service. But I I can't imagine how much worse all of that time, and with just a doctor on board, limited equipment. Thank God he was still alive. He could have been dead, and he survived. But so when the help arrived, what did they do?
Well, let me tell you about Doc Kiefer first. He was wounded in his abdomen and both of his knees. Had shrapnel in him. He had a life jacket on around his waist, and another officer told him, "Say, take that life jacket off. You're scaring everybody." He says, "I got to hold my guts in. I got shrapnel in me."
Oh my
And he
word!
stood on those lakes for 17 hours and performed operations. He was another dear friend of mine for life. But when the help got there, they took the dead off and the most seriously wounded, which is most of the crew. And I stayed with the ship. I wasn't going to leave that ship. I was going to bring it home. And that's what I wanted to do, and I did. But they took us to Malta. We were sailed on our own power. How, I don't know, with a 40 by 40 foot hole in it. Can you imagine?
No, I
Uh,
can't imagine.
I mean, I
It's
ask people sometimes,
horrific.
how many people do you know that survived a torpedo attack?
None. It's horrific. It's the horrors of war. What you're telling us, it's actually, now they can use direct energy weapons, like they used the Growler. The British military had the Growler. You can fire it from an aircraft or a vehicle, and it takes out all neurological and physiological life without any blood being shed. It just hits you and just rips through every cell in your body. And that's almost, I think the actual act of watching a device burn somebody to pieces, blow someone to pieces. I've seen gunshot wounds in the arms and machete attacks, and I've seen burns. It's, you know what it is? It's that, for me, it's that anticipating someone's pain. It's that when you see it right in front of you. And now, of course, people are desensitized because they're seeing it all on the TV, they're seeing it on social media, they're seeing it everywhere, and they watch all this stuff. Let me tell you, doesn't matter how much you watch on social media, doesn't matter how much footage you see coming out of all of these war zones. Nothing is going to prepare you for when it's right in front of you. Right in front of you. I remember seeing a child that the adults killed it. Nothing prepares you for when it's right in front of you. It's not. It's completely different. It's completely different when it's right in front of you, and when it's someone you know, it's even worse. You don't know these pictures on the screens, you don't know them, but when it's your loved ones, I'm telling you, and they're screaming, oh, and it's the ones that don't scream because they're in so much pain, no noise comes out. That's even worse. That's even worse when they can't even scream because they don't have any of that left in them. But so so did they debrief you and put a gag on you and you weren't allowed to say anything?
Yes, they were. Admiral Kidd did that. He came aboard our ship a couple days out at sea with Ward Boston. He was a JAG officer. He's a lawyer, attorney, and we got interviewed in separate areas. The skeleton crew that was left, and he's a flag officer, admiral. And he took off his stars. There's 4 or 5 of us in sick bay. He threw them on the stainless steel table, and it rang like a bell. It really did. I'll never forget that sound. And he says, "Listen, guys, I want to know what happened, what you saw, and I want to get this straightened out. Remember, I'm just like your dad now. I'm not an admiral." So all of us talked, and I told him, you know, about the life rafts being shot, and
They
I asked
machine
him,
they machine gunned the flag. That means it's absolute
yes,
deliberate act. It was in protected international waters, and it was 100 foot longer than the ship the Israelis later claimed they confused it with. So, all of those things.
absolutely, but yeah, absolutely, but it didn't mean anything to him. Uh, when he got down to all of us, and especially me, because I was all over that ship from stem to stern to uh, starboard to port, all over the bridge. Wasn't many places I didn't go. I told him what I thought and why help didn't come and this and that and the other, and he put his stars back on. He says, "Now I'm an admiral again. I'm ordering all you SOBs to never breathe a word of what you said to me, to anybody, the press, your parents, your shipmates, anybody, or I'll make sure you end up in prison or worse." And he looked at me and he was beet red. He says, "You know what worse means?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." I didn't talk about it for damn near 20 years until a friend of mine, Stan White, who's a Master Chief, E9, had an article in the Rocky Mountain News, and the whole world came off my shoulders. I said, "Well, if you can talk about it, I've been sitting on dead ready for a long time. Now I'm going to do it. I've been doing it for the last 41 years. I won't quit till I'm dead."
And deep respect to you. And so he stuck his stars back on, called you sons of bitches, young men that had just been conscripted, that had no way to defend yourselves. And that's who you're supposed to. It's that thing, isn't there? You don't demand respect, you command it. And he would have commanded no respect, puts his stripes back on and says, "You sons of bitches," you don't repeat it to anybody. Well, he'll be somewhere nice and warm probably now. He goes in judgment like all of us do, and won't be looked on very favourably. But so it's Philip. May I ask, how old are you now then? If you were 20 then,
I'm
was
I'm 77.
well, I hope that it says in scripture that we live till we're 120. And God willing, I hope you're still here when you're
Well,
120 and still
according
talking.
to that, I'm just a kid then.
You
But
are.
yeah, I want to say
You,
one thing, Kate. 99% of that ship, or 100% of that ship, were not conscripts. We all joined because we loved our country.
yeah, which
For,
is even
for
more commendable.
right, and so no, we weren't conscripted, but some of them were, and I did 2 tours in Vietnam, by the way, and I could see the handwriting on the wall then.
Wow. So you know that I was a little girl then, and I just remember all of it. My two uncles in Australia were in the Australian Land Army, and they were in Vietnam. They both were bonkers after it. Horrible. I I think it's amazing that you've kept this alive, and I have absolute respect to you, and all our viewers will, and this is why I want you to come on TNT as well, because the devil never changes the script; it just goes round and round and round, and there will be another USS Liberty, and there will be another uh, Phillip Tourney. This will just happen, and it could be your sons, and now your daughters, because they send our daughters to the front line as well. And I don't know, because I'm not there. I don't believe anything that comes out the idiot's lantern anymore. I've seen footage of even um, uh, learning disabilities and Down syndrome on the front lines allegedly on the front lines in the other illegal war that we're looking at with that Zionist puppet Zelensky and everything else that's going on, but it's your sons and daughters and mine, and that's why people like Phillip coming on and keeping this going and telling us. And what I think it's really important is go and look it all up. We talked about it last week. Go and have a look on YouTube. Have a look. Use the devil's tool. Use Google. And Phillip, you've got a website, haven't you? And everything's on the website. Your organisation, justiceforliberty.org. There's lots of information on there. Go on there.
No, that might be a fake one.
Oh, right. So what's the facebook.com USS Liberty Vets? Is that a fake one?
Not that one. The one before that.
All right. What might be a fake? Well,
I'll tell you the real one.
do go ahead and we'll put it on the screen now.
Okay, USS Liberty Veterans.org.
USS Liberty Veterans.org. Gold Eagle's probably typing it out really quick. Go on there and while you're looking at it, ruminate over it all and try and imagine these men like Phil. Imagine him as a young 20-year-old. Imagine that 20-year-old young man facing that. And try, if you've got sons or daughters, try and imagine yours at that age facing that. It's horrific, and it will happen over and over again. And then you throw in, you've done 2 tours of Vietnam as well, and seen the horrors there. Phil, did you go on and have a family? Did you get married? Did you have children?
I did. I was married. I was married at the time of the attack. I got married early, and that didn't last but 10 or 13 years, and I got 2 beautiful daughters out of it. But I'm glad I'm not with her. But,
a lot of people testify to that one about their exes.
Yeah,
We've all been there.
I know. I met a gal. Her name's Lisa. A little over 41 years ago, and she has stood with me like a rock. I didn't even tell her I was in the military, Kate, because I was afraid of the gag order and everything. And when I read that article, I told her, and she wasn't upset with me. She supported me through this all along. And she says, kind of like, boy, I'll tell you, you kind of beat your head a long time. But I put my life into this, and I still raised a family, and I'm doing fine. But it's that important to me because, Kate, when your own government sets you up to be murdered by another foreign crooked government and blame it on another country, how low can you go? How many lives did we want to take? How many lives they got to kill to get what they want?
Well, they want us all dead now, Phil. They want us all dead. That's the whole phony plandemic, scamdemic. They've injected pregnant women. They've injected children. They've killed so many people. They've been doing it all the way along. They inject the military with so many vaccines. They've tested them on them. The Gulf War, the anthrax vaccine, all of this, everything. Government is Hollywood for ugly people. We don't need governments governing. We need it in small. I don't know whether you know about him, the young man. Lavoy Fiddicum, One Cowboy's Last Stand, when he was with the Bundy father and son, and they were trying to stop the government taking over the land that they drove their cattle over, and what they did to him, what the government slaughtered him. If you guys watching this, you don't know about that, Lavoy Fiddicum. I know it's hard to believe, isn't it, that this bimbo nurse would even know about that. Once you start looking, you can't stop looking. But you're right, governments, they don't love you. They're not your mummy and daddy. That's why there's a T-shirt with that slogan on that I said. Your government are not your mummy and daddy. They do not love you at all. They want you dead. You're nothing. You are a cash cow to the medical system. They want every drop of blood out of you before you die. And they're going to rape you of all your assets. They're coming for your houses, your pensions. They want the lot. That's what they did with all the old people during COVID. They took their properties. We don't need governments. They're tyrants. But the only reason that tyrannical governments overthrow the people is because we allow them to. So when people like Phillips dedicated the last goodness knows how many decades keeping this massive attempt to cause more conflict alive, deep respect to you. Total respect to you, Philip. And I can only say a huge thank you to you for coming on, for talking, for doing what you do. You have a remembrance every year for it. I hope that your Remembrance Day is filled with younger and younger people wanting to come and remember this and keep it alive, because a good way to see what's coming is to take a look in your rear view mirror. Because they don't change the script, do they? They just keep doing the same old.
Well, thank you, Kate. And I want to say this on behalf of the crew. We salute you. And on that fateful day, June 8th, our crew came united because we were a split crew, spies and us, engineers and bosun mates and stuff. We came together like an iron fist that can't be broken. And I'm proud to represent them as the president of the USS Liberty Veterans Association and associating with you, Kate. You're something else, girl.
Ah, that's really sweet. I tell you, your wife, girlfriend, whatever she is, partner's a lucky lady. She must be so proud. She must have been so proud when she found out about your military background. She must have been. It must have just been overwhelming. And they say as well, that's why you look so good in your 70s. Behind every good man, there's a good woman. Hate to tell you, fellas, it's true. But and you are your grandfather as well. Do you have grandchildren as well?
Yes, I do. I have. I don't know how many. Quite a bit. Probably 8.
That's good. It's good when you lose count. It means you've got plenty.
I got a lot. So
Yeah, that's
some of they're here right now. Some of them.
good. So they well, from everybody here in the UK, we wish you a very blessed evening, because you're behind us, of course. It's late, 9:15 for us. Thank you so much for coming on, and it was a great honour to meet you. I'm completely humbled. I don't get stuck in the military bit of it. I'm really stuck in the trauma of it. The details that you just gave me of it. The doctor, the life jacket. Am I going to die? Am I going to make it? No. Things like this, because that's the human aspect of it. That's the human part of it that we have to remember. They're not just sailors. They're not just soldiers. They're not just airmen. They're not just pawns in a political game. They're our brothers and sisters in Christ. They're human beings, and we we have to remember that always. We've got to remember that these are somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, mother, brother. We have to remember the human element, because if we don't respect the sanctity of life, we're completely doomed. We're doomed, totally doomed. If we forget the sanctity of life completely, there's no point in humanity carrying on. And so for me, that was the big bit. And I'm really, thank you so much for going back and sharing some horrific images and recalling horrific things, because some people, it's too difficult, and I respect that as well. But Philip, thank you so much. I will see you on TNT as well. And for everyone here, it's been wonderful. We told the entire story. We had Stuart, who was an ex-Olympian, was on last week, and he filled in and was telling us all. So we wanted to get you on in the flesh. So when you said he was really apologetic. Can you believe that, folks? He was apologetic for not making it. You never ever have to apologize to us, ever. After surviving all of that, we're not humble to walk behind you, Dustin. But thank you so much, and I wish you many, many more years, health, happiness, and more years, and that God gives you this voice.
Thank you, and all power go to Jesus Christ. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. Thank you, Kate.
You're very welcome. Have a lovely evening with your family. You've been listening to me, Kate Shemirani, for Unity News Network. Please do catch me on TNT on Sundays. Great guest. This week it's all about health. We will be celebrating 7/7 with a bang, because we've got Nick Colostrum on. I'm sure there'll be all kinds of stuff going on. The government like us to believe that, 4 blokes, was it? Even though they executed them all at Canary Wharf. And the other one, they were just young guys as well. Will it ever end? Well, it ends when the fat lady says, we need to end it. We have to end it. So think about that when you're voting the next idiot in. And loving the emperor lately, he's calling it all out, isn't he? He's calling it all out. And he's always, that's why I like David Clues. He gets really unpopular because he doesn't care. He's nobody's bitch, as they say. He even slagged me off, but at least he had the guts to apologise. And I'm here now on his platform. So do keep looking, kateshemirani.com. It's all the finishing touches. My website, incidentally, is going to take you on. It's all about being part of the community in the Natural Nurse Army. It's about how are you going to get through it, so you don't need any of that garbage. Everything's dark and depressing, and I hear people saying all the time, I'm so depressed, I don't know what to do, I'm listening to the news. There'll be nothing like that on my website that you have to watch. There will be a round table that you get to ask question and answers. There's going to be some great things on there, because this is my passion now. And then after this comes the one, and it's in the infancy now. We're now talking to a union where we start training nurses. That's the next bit, to get nurses trained, 21st century nurses, so that they know how to get you healthy, so that they can teach you. Anyway, have a wonderful evening. And that's it from me here. And it's as hot as hell. I'm literally melting. Melting! My makeup's melting. Don't forget to buy Tropic makeup. It's clean. The link, Tropic, I don't advocate using, it's Catherine Leonet's link. I don't advocate using deodorant ever. You shouldn't. Don't forget to buy something from The Good Inside, because the zeolite is great for heavy metal detox. It works. You can even use it on babies. If you get stuck, email me, naturalnurse@mail.com. The zeolite spray, the pure body, The Good Inside, and the drops that you can put in a drink. You can use that on babies that have been injected. It does work. It's fantastic. I do like the pea protein. If I don't want to eat, I shove some fruit in there. If I've done a workout. Grounding mats. Everybody needs a grounding mat. If you're not walking outside, just buy a grounding mat and sleep with your feet on one. You'll sleep like a log. 21 studies proving it stops inflammation. They're absolutely fab. Stop buying crap for people. Buy them something that's good. You can buy things that you put on your shoes instead. You can put on your kids' shoes so that they'll ground as they walk. They can have a grounding mat that they put in the rucksack and put under their laptops at work because they are being hammered with EMF. Absolutely hammered with EMF. Good night, Richard. And I'm trying to think what else I flog, actually. I flog all sorts. I've got all sorts of new stuff, stuff that works. I only flog clean stuff that works. I refuse to sell garbage. We've got Fabio Zolfi coming back on telling us all the latest on those that were hit with the bioweapon. And incidentally, wait till you see the vitamin B17, the apricot kernels or the Laetril. It's got my label on. It's got my label on. Can you believe it? It's got my label on, the Kate Shemirani label. When you see that label on things, you know you can trust it because that label's not going on anything unless I would absolutely use it myself and give it to my own people that I love and care for. Well, I love all you lot. Anyway, and you'll be seeing lots of videos because I've got the best man who's going to be helping me and working with me. I wonder who that could be. He's going to be doing lots of editing, running it. You're going to be seeing a news. I'm doing the news every week, incidentally, my take on it. And eventually I will get where we do the Lord's Prayer for those of you who remembered it from lockdown. You don't have to come on it. You don't have to come on to any of it. You get access to the archives. You're going to get a menu. You're going to get told how to cook with it, the vitamins that are in it, what it's good for. I'm going to pick one herb. I'm going to tell you how to make tinctures, how to make compresses. I'm doing it all for you, and you get mailed that every day. So you get one thing. So there's all this stuff that you're wading through now. It's like information overload. It's too much. I'm going to do it in little A4. You're going to get a little A4 thing emailed to you every day, the herb, what it's for, how you use it. Stop buying all the dried stuff that costs money. Grow your own. It's so easy. Rosemary is one of the best herbs ever. Fat Dave keeps using it as a toilet. I have to keep going in there every day. So anyone got any ideas there? I've tried coffee grounds. I've tried the lot. I'm now putting like mesh over it. But anyway, look, I will see you all next week. Same time, same place. Have a good evening.